Hey, so this is probably going to continue in a trend of badly shot videos, but I I had seen a TikTok today that made me mad. So I it wasn't the first one that did it, but this one made such lofty claims that I was like you can't tell, but I was so mad, and it was it was a TikTok about Bakugo, from My Hero Academia, and it, like many others, is just claiming that he's just the best character that has ever walked the face of the earth, and that's not too big of an exaggeration of how far some of the Bakugo stands go. And I want anybody who comes across this to know that I'm not like an anti Bakugo person. I I I will admit that Bakugo is not a favorite of mine, and I don't like him. Like, this is gonna sound weird. I don't like him as a person, but I do like Bakugo's existence. Like, as a character, Bakugo makes perfect sense in existing and in the world that My Hero Academia is set in. Like, he makes sense. Like, I would be surprised if a character like Bakugo wasn't in the series for, you know, all of the criticisms in universe some characters have about the hero system and what it's become, what it's turned into, what it really accommodates, what it allows certain heroes to be, and do. And I think Bakugo is just a really good representation of that because, what is Bakugo? Bakugo is a character who manifested a very nice, very strong quirk and was allowed to just be a very mean spirited person for many years. And even now is still allowed to do that to a certain extent because he's powerful. The only time Bakugo really sees any pushback for his lack of concern and consideration, and I guess the best way I could call it his bedside manner is during the provisional license exam, wherein in real practice other heroes are like, look, you can't talk to people like that, or specifically, you can't talk to people that you're trying to be rescuing like that. It will be a problem. And that's it. And that's not, it's not to downplay the seriousness of that, because that's, that is a big thing in universe. But he doesn't, the way for which him to get his provisional license in the end doesn't really fix that aspect of his personality or his behavior pattern. So it's a little bit like it's like, yeah, we called it out, but we didn't do that much about it. And I'm getting off topic, or I guess that maybe I'm not, because that really ties into some other issues that I have with him. But I guess my issue is that though I think he's a great character foil, and I think he's a character that helps to point out certain issues in the system that they work under, that they live under, I have some problems with how people view his character, how people excuse certain actions that his character takes. And I think it's, for lack of another word, problematic. And I guess what I want to say here is that when you do something bad, to get over that. What do you have to do, right? What what makes that bad thing go away, or like what makes it so that that bad thing doesn't count against you? And the answer to that is multifaceted, right? Or I guess you could say it's a little bit more person by person, because for some people, all you need for that to go away is, I'm sorry, right? Like a heartfelt, sincere apology will do a lot for people to strike something from the record. But like, as a whole, in society, when someone does something bad, they they can't just be excused. They can't just atone for it by doing something good elsewhere, right? And I feel like with Bakugo, that's what a lot of people want you to do. They want you to say, well, oh, I mean, sure, Bakugo did bully Deku. Bakugo is, that's just his personality. And like he cares for him. He, he, he cares for lots of other people. Like, Bakugo's not bad. Um, and that's such BS. like is I it makes me so mad because you can't do that. You can't. No one is allowed to treat people the way he treated people. Like, it's not okay. And to then say, well, he's done other good things, so like those things, they shouldn't count that much against him. Why shouldn't they? Like, why not? What makes him so deserving of having those stricken from the record when he hardly owns up to them? Like, does he acknowledge that he's done it? Yeah, but like, to what extent? Like, to what extent does he really, like, go after his own behavior? Because to me, everything that stands will like cite is not enough. It can't possibly be enough. Like, if you're someone like me, I the reason I don't think I will ever be able to hold Bakugo to a much higher regard, um, is because I have a huge problem with the fact that he told Deku to go jump off the school roof. I do. I don't care if people think he was being um, facetious, um, or just bratty. Like, that's not okay. And if I I guess what it relates to, and maybe this is partly like me and my personality, but I don't think you can take stuff like that too seriously. I think that when someone says something as hurtful as that, you should be allowed to like come down hard on that, especially when he doesn't ever make any explicit like reference back to it and apologizing for it. You cannot be mean to someone like just years over years and then turn around and say sorry, and that be a blanket apology for everything. And then you have to acknowledge too that Bakugo wasn't just mean to Deku. Like, they put a spotlight on it, and they don't show you any like huge consistent instances of him just like outright bullying like so many others. But he wasn't a good person. Like, there's a time in the show, in the manga, where you can see Deku standing in front of another kid that Bakugo is leading his friends to beat, even though the kid is on the ground, he's crying, he's already hurt. Like, there's no excuse for that. There's none. And I don't understand how people can then say, like, well, he's better now. Like, how is he better? Like, I I do like I want to say this because I do again I like Bakugo's character. Okay, I would say that to a certain extent I do like his character art. I do like his development, but I don't. Do I think he's like the best developed character ever? No. And do I think that he is excused for far too many things? Absolutely, absolutely. Um, because I think the biggest thing I've seen is so many people saying like, "Oh, well, you don't understand. Bakugo's like one of those gifted kids that you see in school who like spends all their life being told that they're so great, and and they go from being at the absolute top to being at the bottom when they go to university, right?" And I just that's first of all that's just a horrible comparison, because it insinuates that Bakugo has ever at any point in his life in the series has at any point been anything less than like a top 5 student, because he hasn't. He is always a top candidate. In the end, he won the athletic tournament arc. You know, he not by the standards that he wanted, but he won. No matter what, you can't say that he wasn't a top contender. Um, wasn't he acknowledged by other heroes? Wasn't he able to put in the work in times of action? Of course he was. So to say that he's still mean to Deku after the fact because he's no longer in the top is ludicrous. It's ridiculous. The it's and yeah, I could really go on that for so much longer, but really I guess what I want to talk about is the fact that I think, even though I like Bakugo's character, that his reasoning for being mean to Deku, for treating him like absolute garbage, doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I can give a little bit of leeway because again, it's a story, right? You have to give a little bit of room, a little bit, because I have to know that in some ways it's removed from reality. In some portions it's just supposed to be that way. I get that. However, if you're saying like, oh, well, he was mean to Deku because he felt like Deku was like in a testament against him, right? He was standing up against him. He was making Bakugo feel weak. Bakugo had this raging superiority and or inferiority complex, and he couldn't stand the fact that Deku, somebody who was less powerful than him, tried to help him. Then you have to keep that same energy the whole way through. In which case, once Dekugo is on an even playing field with him, it shouldn't matter. But he's still mean to him, isn't he? Right, he is. And I know that if anybody who watches this is like caught up with the manga, they're gonna say, well, he did this for Deku. Like, actually, up until, if you made it this far into this random video, then I'll just, spoilers. He put himself out there, got stabbed in the side for Deku, but I don't think it holds the same. Okay, so in the story they try to like parallel it to when Deku ran out and tried to save Bakugo from the sludge monster, or when I've seen people try to parallel it to when Bakugo tried to save Bakugo from being kidnapped. And the reason I can't agree that that's a fair parallel is because Deku, at those points in time, was not a a hero in the sense that he wasn't a professional. Do you know what I mean? Like Deku when he first went out, that first time he had everything to lose. He could have been taken out. Okay. Um but aside from the fact that he could be taken out, because I recognize that really in any of these situations, whether they're a professional or not, they could be taken out. Um, it wasn't his job. Like, you can say what you want, but at a certain point, you do have to recognize that there's a little bit of a difference between someone like Deku, who is not being paid, um, who does not have any type of strength that would embolden him with a certain level of confidence that he could, reasonably have a positive outcome in this situation. He ran forward because he wanted to save him. He wanted to at least try. Okay? Because he looked like he needed to be saved. And it's why Deku is one of my favorite characters. I'm not trying to downplay the fact that Bakugo has stepped up, because he did. He stepped up. Right? It is character development for him to step out for Deku. Right? I'm not saying that it's not, but it's not the same thing as when Deku ran out to save him from that subjuncture. Because Bakugo has power. Bakugo has confidence that he might be able to escape this situation with his own power. And more so than that, at that point in time, it is his job. Like, it's not a matter of, oh, well, it would be horrible if Bakugo hadn't stepped up for Deku when he did. Because at that point in time, it was his job. Like, I think in and of itself, it says something that people think it's impressive that he did what he did. Because really what we're all saying is that we think that prior to that point, earlier in the timeline, we don't think he would do that for Deku. Like, that's what it says. But regardless, he just should have done it. Like, again, I acknowledge that it is stepping up for Bakugo, but regardless, he was supposed to do it. Like, they're heroes, man. They're supposed to get in the way. They're supposed to try and take the bullets for other people. They're supposed to. That's their job. And so I don't know. Like, I'm not saying, like, give kudos where you're supposed to, give credit where credit is due, right? But there's there's props, and then there's, like, putting someone up on a pedestal. Like, Bakugo isn't there. That's all. Bakugo's not there. So yeah, in the series, Bakugo has come a long way, but for me, Bakugo won't be someone I can ever like until he makes specific acknowledgments to how he has treated people, how his behavior in general is. because it's not okay. It's just not. And I don't actually have hope that it will change too much. I think there is like an in-world acceptance of Bakugo's personality and actions, as just, that's just how he is. But I don't think that's a good excuse for how he's acted in the past, how he currently acts, and how he will act going forward. Um, yeah. And I would love for someone to I would love for multiple people to give me some like more in-depth reasons as to what they find just so um attracting attractive of Bakugo, in terms of his character. Because I get that he's strong. I get that he is very confident. He has a certain kind of personality that I can get why he's a top character. Like, of course, like I don't think, even with me not liking Bakugo, I don't think he's a character who would otherwise not be in the top 10, like, of just characters in the show. I just don't understand why so many people feel like what Bakugo has done is enough to excuse him. And more so, I also get irritated because, at least within the fandom of My Hero Academia, fans can be very critical of a lot of different characters, including like Deku. I've seen like 1,000 think pieces on Deku, who is in the very least, because I don't agree with a lot of them, but in the very least, some things that you have to give Deku is that he's inherently caring. Like, inherently, it's just the strongest part of his character is that he cares for others, and he cares for others to the point where, like, I will say that it's dangerous, that it's probably toxic, because he puts others before himself, even when he's aware that he might die. But I I feel like that's what a hero is supposed to be. They're supposed to be someone who they rush forward. You know, they they take all the hits, all the punches, all the bullets, all the knives, all the swords, um, because they know that others need to be protected and they want to protect. And I feel like that's what a hero is. And I guess this is what it comes down to for me. I've never felt like Bakugo was a hero. Like, in the traditional sense, not in the My Hero Academia sense where like a hero is, a job, right? But in the sense that I feel like Bakugo cares about people at large. Like that I feel like Bakugo wants to save people. I've never gotten that from anything that he's done. And that means a lot to me because I can't see what he does as being heroic, um, but rather as something that he does to meet a goal that he has that in and of itself is also not heroic. Like, everybody has their own goals in My Hero Academia, and there's a lot of them that aren't, traditionally heroic, because again, in that world, it's an occupation, right? But as an audience member, our sense of what being a hero is different. So just like how I've seen, many people say like, oh well, Uraraka, for example, wants money, right? And I've seen a lot of people make jokes this way or that way, like, oh, she's such a gold digger, she just wants that money, versus like, if you look at it from a different perspective, she just wants to help her parents. And both of those are, there's nothing wrong with either of those goals. There's nothing wrong with either. There's most of the people in My Hero Academia who are trying to be heroes, I don't really look down on any of their goals, because a goal that's in the right place is still respectable. And I feel like all of theirs, even Bakugo's, where his main goal is to just be, number one, it's a respectable goal. But the reason behind it is not heroic. Bakugo wants to be the strongest. So he can be the strongest. That's right now, that's really it. Right now, that's it. Deku wants to be the number one hero, so he can help people. He wants to be the number one hero so he can help as many people as possible, so that he can be the light that people need, because that's what the number one hero was to him. And you can't compare the two. I'm sorry, but you can't. Like, so the fact that Bakugo just lacks that traditional sense of heroism just, to me, brings him that much lower. It makes me like him a lot less, and he could get there. He really could. But for him to get there, to get to that point, he would have to acknowledge that, one, his prior behavior was inappropriate and unheroic, and just generally altogether unkind. He would have to also like apologize, like a heartfelt apologize, because I've seen some people say, well, oh, like, he does acknowledge that he was a bully, because like in the manga there's a time where he talks about how in the past he bullied Deku, but acknowledging something, one, you can't just pick and choose what you're going to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge all of it. So that's my whole first point. But two, acknowledgement is not an apology. And I need an apology to end all apologies. And it's not for Deku, it's for me. Because the other thing about Deku is doesn't care. And if there's any part of Deku I don't like, it's that part. But that can be saved for a whole other rant that I will have. My point is that probably, realistically, I don't think Deku will get as much from heartfelt, in-depth apology from Bakugo as I will. But I need it. I need it for my continued enjoyment of the series to go on. Because at some point, like on a behavioral level, Bakugo has to change. Like, and I guess some fans probably think it's funny, it's cute, but like, for example, when he woke up and everybody's like, oh well, the first thing he wanted to do was go see Deku. Like, for me, there was an element of like selfishness to that really turned me off, because of course where he and Deku and Todoroki and Endeavor were all at, they went through it, but the others went through it too. And so I don't know, there's something about the fact that he's sitting here making it hard on others, so they have to hold him back again. It's not the only time. It's a repeating thing, reoccurring thing in this series where people are having to hold Deku back. That's, at some point, that actually, like, it has to stop. That's a really specific thing that he can't continue to do again and again and again and again, because it makes him, to me, come across as irresponsible. And it just says something about where he is in maturity that's not growing. It's not changing from the beginning, from having to be held back because he's mad that Deku has a quirk now, and having to be held back by Aizawa, or having to be held back, literally restrained at the tournament because he's so mad that he didn't get to fight Todoroki the way that he wanted to, and then having to get held back at the hospital. Like, there, to me, there's it's character consistency, but it's consistency in a behavior that needs to stop. But now that I've said everything that I want to say, in as chaotic a manner as possible, I'm gonna call it. Anybody who makes it through all 33 of these minutes, congratulations, thank you. Feel free to comment on it, argue with me. I would love to see different takes on how you view Bakugo. But again, I want you to know that, like, at this point in time, he's kind of trash to me. Like, not as a character, but as a person. So anyway, thank you. Goodbye.